Well, hello YouTube, Louie here. I've been asked by a member of the community, and actually on more than one occasion, to discuss why it is that most of us recommend being debt-free before you begin to stack. And I'm going to cover this in my own way. I've taken a kind of a systematic approach to a recommendation here. So generally, before you start stacking gold and silver, we all recommend to have as little debt as possible. So let me go over, but there are, I think, some exceptions, and I think we can explore what someone does if they are, really trapped in debt, but also believe that the end is near for our financial system and want to protect themselves for the coming dollar reset. So let's go ahead and take a look at the different categories of debt and see if maybe we can soften our advice here a little bit. Hold on. All right, I've broken this down into 5 categories of financial need or situations, or mostly debt. And I want to go through them one by one to see if how much of this you can knock off and how much of our advice you can ignore in regard to stacking precious metals. So this video is for people that are kind of struggling with debt but still want to stack. Let's see where we can draw the line to get you guys at least participating to some extent. All right, I'm going to go with number 1, which I firmly believe, the emergency fund. Regardless of the debt that you have, you need to have some cold, hard dollars in the bank or under your mattress. In my opinion, an emergency fund of at least 3 months of living expenses is essential. If you go out and you stack precious metals and you don't have an emergency fund, I can almost guarantee your precious metals will wind up at the local coin shop sold for under spot because you need a new set of tires, right? Or you have to have an operation, or or something with your children. There are so many reasons to have an emergency fund that I personally cannot see avoiding this advice. So let's get some cash in the bank, whether or not you kind of have debt or precious metals, and have it available when you need it. Okay, short-term emergencies occur and you have to have some cash. It would also be wise to have some cash if there is a bank holiday. Okay, you're just going to need to do that, so buckle down and get some cash in the bank or under your mattress or anywhere you want it. Okay, number 2, credit card debt. Now, this is a mathematical exercise. Before you stack any metals in bulk, any significant amount of metals, you really need to extinguish your credit card debt. All right, if you are paying 18% interest or something, even 12%, 15%, and you want to stack gold or silver, just be very, very aware that you are losing money every single month. If you're paying 18% interest on the debt with your credit card companies, that would be the equivalent of expecting gold to go from its current price to $3,400 over 5 years. All right? It just simply won't do that. All right? Now, someday there could be an emergency, there could be a dollar reset. We could see a doubling of the price of gold, which would be, kind of a home run for most people. But if the gold price doubles for you and you have been in credit card debt over that 5-year period, you've lost money. All right, so that is like going to a loan shark and then going to the racetrack with the money and hoping for a good outcome. And I'm not saying have a little bit of gold and silver if you want to have a little bit, just a little bit, but your credit card debt is number 1 to extinguish. And perhaps you do that through a bankruptcy. I mean, I cannot advise how to get out of credit card debt most quickly. You take a second job, etc. But I am not going to waver on this one. You got credit card debt. Stop spending money on credit cards, stop buying things that perhaps you don't need, and move that debt down. All right, sorry about that. Mortgage debt. You know, most of us who have a home have a mortgage. And in today's environment where you can get 3% interest on, fairly conventional mortgages, I have a mortgage now. And I personally am exempting home mortgage debt from this prohibition. So if you have a mortgage, go ahead and stack. But I'm going to give a caveat here. If you have a mortgage like I used to have when I thought I was, king speculator in real estate, and you have bought a home that is well over your means and you can barely make the payments and you could hardly ever pay down that mortgage, and you're fluctuating with the price of real estate in the market, then you are, like I was, a real estate speculator, and everything you have is tied to real estate. And I'd be very careful about building a large stack while you are so exposed to the movements in real estate prices. So my recommendation here is when you purchase your home, get into something you can afford and something you can pay off at the lowest interest rate price you can, something your family can live in. So for most of us, that is no problem. But if you're out speculating in real estate and that's the kind of mortgage debt you have, then I would not be stacking. For the rest of us, stack away. And consider a refinance if you haven't done so. Rates are, well, they just started ticking back up again, but man, they're so low. Okay, car debt. I'm going to give you a pass on this one as well because most people, more and more actually, are paying cash for buying their cars on debt. Would it be better to buy an old clunker with cash and just make that do? Yeah, probably. But, some of us have situations where you actually need to have a dependable, reliable, presentable vehicle. It's hard to drive a clunker when you really rely on your car. And if you don't have the cash to put down to get that car, I don't think that should preclude you from stacking. So reasonable debt for reasonable vehicles, I'd say go ahead and stack. All right. Don't get the Lambo. Okay. If you're getting the Lambo, you probably shouldn't be stacking. And student loan debt. Okay, this is a killer to many of you. Congrats to those of you that stayed in school despite the tremendous pressure to not become educated. Good for you. It will pay off in the long run. And you have student loan debt. Well, of course, you want to stay current on your student loan debt. You cannot go bankrupt on it. You can't avoid it. Someday, the government may help you eliminate that student loan debt. And by the way, there are programs, if you haven't restructured your debt and you are current on your debt, there's more than one program to forgive that debt if you're willing to work in certain sectors of the economy and commit some of your career to public service. Student loan debt can be extinguished that way in certain circumstances. But for most of you that have that student loan debt, if it's gigantic and hopefully it's at a low interest rate, I would do my best to pay it down over time because you can't do it all at once. But I don't think that should preclude you from stacking. So again, I've made an exception here. You probably would need to stay within a really strict budget, right? You just, for all debt and all requirements, you need to build your budget, and you need to understand you have to stay within that budget. Never buy precious metals on credit cards. Never speculate in precious metals if you can't afford to lose the money. My next advice would be to stay with physical. All right. That's what you're trying to do here. You're trying to stack. You're not trying to make a stock trade. Perhaps you're just getting started and buying a couple of silver eagles or some fractional gold eagles, is probably the way to go. Don't get carried away with the stock market and the ETFs and so forth. Don't turn stacking into gambling if you are just getting started and if you are in debt. You want to pay down your debt. You want to control your spending, reduce your lifestyle, and start stacking away tangible wealth. And I would stay with bullion, stay away from collector coins. You have one goal here, that is to stack, that is to reduce your debt, stay within your budget, and build what will be very helpful if the dollar ever resets. Now, if you're saying, we all are expecting, a dollar reset, we're expecting, the government to, go broke and the value of our greenbacks to dramatically decline. Yes, I think that's all true, but timing is really, really hard to get right. And you'll see the same videos today telling you that you saw 5 years ago, and you may even see them 5 years from now. I think stacking is a long game. And you know what? If you're young, time is on your side. You will get there. The world may not fall apart just as quickly as you think. I think the way that the government is going to steal our money is through inflation. So, you'll have an opportunity. This probably will be a slow grind. When you see a Big Mac hit $15, then you'll probably know that they have succeeded. But in the meantime, stay with your stacking goals, stay within your budget, and try to get out of debt, guys. Whatever you can do, debt is slavery. And stacking in spite of debt, it is some magical thinking, okay? That's my opinion, but I think there are some exceptions, and I think you can play around the edges. But please don't build a big stack while you pay 18% interest on your credit card. I think 9 out of 10 stackers will tell you that is a mistake. All right, what are your opinions? And for those of you, for you veterans out there that have done it, perhaps you've overcome this barrier, what is your best advice to people, potentially young people, wanting to get into this hobby but still being saddled with debt? What do you advise them? Thanks so much for your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys later.